Hey guys, it's Nihongo Johnny. Minasan konnichiwa, Nihongo Johnny desu. If you're new, hey, I'm Johnny, and I talk about all things paranormal in Japan. I put out new videos every Friday, so if you're into that sort of stuff, definitely hit subscribe. I'm trying to hit my first 150 subscribers by October when I have a big surprise for you. Today's video is going to be a little bit different though. Today is not really going to have anything to do with Japan, it's just going to be about the paranormal. I really wanted to make this video as a thank you for my last video. The last video I posted, I was a little bit nervous posting because it was the first video I did completely off script. I just used stories from my own experience and I was hoping you guys would like it. And so many of you gave me such positive comments, such positive direct messages, and I really wanted to give back to you. So today's video is just for you. Before we start the story, I just wanted to quickly go over some of my favorite comments from the last video. One more gaijin in Japan said, "Creepy story, but honestly I would have been out of there when I was hearing the scratching and seeing the shadows. Nope, nope, nope." TS said, "Great video. Thank you for sharing your experience. I have never had a paranormal experience, but I would be scared to. With the earthquakes, I've experienced a couple in Canada. Scary when you are not used to them." This comment is by Aries, and she does amazing paranormal videos, so you guys should check her out. Was that you, Aries? Aries said, "Watch the whole thing. You made it very enjoyable. I got tears when you said 7 or 8 feet tall. It sounds like the typical Hatman shadow person, and I know exactly how you felt. I've seen pure evil too." And once again, I was kind of rushing through. I really did enjoy all your comments, and thank you so much for taking the time to watch it and respond. It means so much to me. So this story is from when I was back in high school. At the time, I was living in Connecticut, and one night I was hanging out with my friends, Jess and Sarah. They're still my friends today. We've been friends for a really long time. We didn't really have much to do that night. We were kind of bored, and we were thinking, hey, let's go out. Maybe let's get some sushi and then go hang out at Toys R Us. We used to love to do that, just kind of like fool around at Toys R Us, which sadly doesn't exist anymore. Let's take a moment of silence for Toys R Us. We were kind of just fooling around like usual, checking out the toys, checking out the games, stuff like that. And we came across a Ouija board. Neither me nor Sarah has ever done it in our lives. I think Jess said that she did it, she was a little bit experienced, but we were really curious as to how it kind of worked and if it was real. So we bought this Ouija board and we went back home to my place. We brought the board down to the basement. I lived with my very conservative religious parents at the time, and I really was not allowed to have a Ouija board or anything of that nature. I think once when I was 7 years old, I bought an astrology book and my mom made me throw it out immediately, and I had to pray before coming back in the house. So a Ouija board really wasn't something allowed in the house. So we did this secretly in the basement. Now I'm going to explain the layout of the basement a bit. It is a extra guest room, and it was pretty big. It was pretty much the size of the bottom of the house, and there was a bed in the right hand corner, and right by the bed there was a hallway. It was kind of like a dark hallway, and at the end of that hallway it led to the laundry room. And we had a TV in the right hand corner and a couple desks, so it was fairly open in the middle, and that's where we put the Ouija board. I remember all three of us had our hands on the planchette, and we started asking questions. We started to ask the normal things that we saw on TV and the kind of popular questions. Is anyone here? And it slowly went to yes. And then we asked, how many people are here? And it said 4, even though there were 3 of us. And of course, I was the person that said, you guys are pushing it, I don't believe this. It's not moving on its own. This is too unreal. So my friends let go, and I kind of felt the planchette move by itself. It was really shocking and kind of strange. I can't really explain how it feels, but it was just sliding, sort of like there was a magnet pulling it. Then I said, okay, I believe you, and my friends put their hands back on the planchette, and we continued to ask questions. I remember we specifically asked, are you alive? And the planchette moved to no. We started getting more and more creeped out. The air was getting heavier and heavier, and we continued to ask, were you ever alive? And it said, no. So we started to second guess ourselves, and my friends asked, are you good? And it went back to no once again. This is where we got really nervous. But I think it was my friend Jess who asked, "Well, what's your name then?" And it started spelling out this name that I recognized to be a demon name that I read somewhere online or heard maybe on a paranormal TV show. As soon as I said the name, the planchette stopped. And this is the really, really creepy part. A centipede, or was a millipede, I can't tell them apart. I'm gonna have to look into this once again later after I do this video, but it's that like creepy long white one. But anyways, it came out from under the bed, crawled over the board, and went under the TV stand. And we all jumped up and darted out, trying to get away from that nasty bug. At this point, I think everyone had it with the board. They were done asking questions, everyone was creeped out, and we did the worst thing possible and just stopped at that point. We packed up the board and we ran outside. At the time, my garage was a separate building from our house, so we left the house, we went in the garage and kind of buried the board in a pile of junk in the back of the garage. We just left it there. We went back inside when my friends were like, "Okay, it's time to leave. We're done." Of course, my friends left me home alone. Well, not really alone. My parents were there, but I had no one to talk to at that point. And they're not bad friends. They're really good friends. But I think we were just all equally creeped out that night. I think I was so scared that I immediately went to bed. I myself am not a religious person, but at that time of night, I just about had it, and I kind of grabbed my grandmother's rosary and I went to sleep with that in my hand. The next morning I woke up, I saw that the rosary was across the room in the corner. I think my bed upstairs was in the right-hand corner. This was in the left-hand corner. It was placed on the desk over there. And I don't remember getting up and actually putting it there at any point in the night. I think I slept through the whole night. Then I went downstairs, I had breakfast, and I remember my mom was gonna drive me to school, so she went outside to warm up the car when I heard a scream. I went outside and my mom was freaking out because at the very bottom of our steps, there was a decapitated baby rabbit with its body about maybe 5 or 6 inches from the head. Nothing was like eaten. It wasn't like an animal had eaten the rabbit. It just had a severed head laying a little bit far from its body. And at the time I lived pretty close to the city, so we didn't have many animals that would find a rabbit and just drop it where it is. That's probably how it got there, but it's not a common occurrence. To me, because we did the Ouija board the night before, I just kind of related it to that as some sort of omen. I'm so glad that I had school and I could get out of the house and kind of get away from all that because I was too scared. And in the following week, I got really, really sick. I don't remember this too much, but it was a point that my friends made that they remembered specifically from this experience. But yeah, I got really sick for a few weeks. I couldn't even get out of bed. I had a high fever. It was probably one of the worst flus or something I have ever caught in my life. That eventually went away and I went back to normal, but there was still some weird stuff going on in the basement. Whenever we brought our dogs down, or if anyone had any animals with them and we brought them into the basement, they would freak out, especially at that dark hallway. They would bark and try to run back up the stairs. I even had a hamster at one point that we kept in the basement, and we took really good care of it. I even named him Mozart, and I loved him so much. If I can find pictures, I'll definitely post them. But it was very sad because Mozart died, I think within a couple weeks or a couple months of living in the basement. The way he died was really strange because he was healthy up until that last day, and the weirdest part was he had blood draining from the back of his neck. And it didn't seem like he fell or anything. He was just kind of lying there, dead. And then, whenever we had anyone sleep over, they would always report getting nightmares. I think my friends would be like, "I had the worst nightmare last night." My aunt slept over one night and she said she had this dream about this man turning into this like wolf kind of creature, and she said it was horrifying. At one point, when I went to college and I came back and visited, I would sleep in the basement, and every single night I remembered having horrible nightmares. I could never remember what the nightmares were about, but I just knew I had nightmares. and I was just so creeped out, especially at the hallway, whenever I woke up. I even think in the past few years, when my nieces and nephews would come over and hang out, they would never, ever, ever want to go in the basement. They said that there was a monster down there, which is freaking scary. My niece specifically would say it was a vampire down there. The whole basement just had a really dark, creepy energy to it. And sometimes, like, my mom would say that doors would open and close by themselves. I've never seen it personally, but my mom would say it would happen all the time. Like, she'd be in the laundry room and the door would slam shut, or the closet would open. And that's another thing. My little sister would sleep in the basement sometimes, and she said the closet would open up when she was sleeping, and there would be an old woman sitting there staring at her. Thank God I never saw that, because I think I just have a heart attack and die. I've seen shadow figures, I've seen many creepy things, but it's just something about an old woman in a closet that I don't think I could ever handle. I'm trying to think if there was anything else that happened, but it wasn't much more than that. And there was one last thing I wanted to kind of bring up. We did have these Walkie Talkies that were pretty old, maybe they were from the 80s. And we had them for a while, and sometimes we just kind of like fool around with them, and we'd like turn the station and stuff like that. And I remember there was this one station where there was just so much swearing, so much like hateful swearing, and it did sound like a person. It wasn't like a demonic voice or something like that. I can't picture someone just sitting there for like minutes on end just swearing and swearing and swearing with nothing else. Besides that, there wasn't much more. And my parents did change houses a couple years ago, so I don't really know if anything ever stopped, but everyone did get away from it. So what it comes down to is using a Ouija board. I don't know if I believe it's necessarily a bad thing. I believe when you're using it fooling around, you're kind of getting what you're asking for, and you're calling anything in, and that's when it gets dangerous. I do believe that if you know what you're doing, you can use the Ouija board, and I think it will be okay. Crazy enough, I don't think this experience would ever stop me from using a Ouija board again. I haven't used one since I've done that, but I think I'd actually be up for trying it again one day. But maybe a little bit more seriously and not fooling around. What do you guys think? Do you guys have any bad experiences with the Ouija board? Do you have any thoughts on the Ouija board you'd like to share? I'd like to hear what you have to say. And as always, please hit that subscribe button if you got this far and you liked this video. It means so much to me. And I'll see you guys in the next video.